Winds raging over 175 miles an hour. Tornadoes spinning destruction in every direction. Over $108 billion in damage. Millions of people evacuated from their homes. And over 1,200 lives lost. This was the reality of Hurricane Katrina in August of 2005, and my reality living on the Gulf Coast of Mississippi at the time. On August 29, 2005, I lost my home and everything I owned in Hurricane Katrina. I was displaced with hundreds of people who were also now homeless, waiting to find out just how bad the damage was. I found myself at a low point in the fall of 2005. I was angry at the circumstance that so many people now faced. Angry at the devastating destruction. And angry at the fact that so many of my coworkers were given the opportunity to leave and start over while I was told to dig my heels in and figure out how to help rebuild. And at the time, I was looking for someone to blame for the situation and for my anger. But during this low point in my life, I slowly found a tipping point. The picture on the screen is a scene that I once hated. It was taken just a few days after Hurricane Katrina. But originally, it was a scene of beauty. There were beautiful flowers, multiple trees, fresh cut bushes and grass, and a beautiful view of the back bay of the Gulf of Mexico. The day this picture was taken, though, most of that was gone, except for a few trees and, of course, the water that destroyed most of it. And I realized that day I was left with a choice. A choice to leave the destruction, flee, and start over somewhere else, or pick up that blue bucket in the picture and make the choice to rebuild right there. After Katrina, I started to make journal lists of what had to be done for myself, my wife, and those around me to help rebuild. These lists allowed me to examine multiple areas of my life, and what I found was I had a lot to be thankful for, and I had some amazing learnings. I learned about my purpose. My purpose is my cause or belief that inspires me. It's what I draw strength from during the tough times and what I celebrate during the amazing and excellent times. My purpose is to help others grow and develop and inspire them to take action to live their purpose. During and after Hurricane Katrina, I was a computer instructor teaching the young people the trade of computer systems technology. And I initially wanted to leave the Gulf Coast and leave that purpose behind, but it kept calling to me. And I knew I couldn't leave, and I was going to stay and continue to help these young people grow. I learned about love. On one of the journal lists, I wrote down that I didn't love where we lived anymore after Katrina, and I wanted to change this. In fact, I was reminded of a quote from Victor Hugo, the author of The Hunchback of Notre Dame. He said, "You cannot love without giving." And my wife and my coworkers reminded me of this. My wife reminded me of my passion for education, and that it was the reason why we moved to the Gulf Coast in the first place, to give back through learning. And my coworkers helped me remind myself of how much I enjoyed the outdoors and truly loved it as we worked together to give back through rebuilding. I learned about trust. One of my favorite authors and social researchers, Dr. Brene Brown, defines trust as the willingness to make something important to you vulnerable to the actions of someone else. Think about that for a moment. What in your life is truly vulnerable to you? Who have you shared it with? Our journey in life is not one we should walk alone in. I learned that I had to extend trust and be vulnerable in different ways like I never had before. And I remember just a few nights after the storm, being alone. My wife had been evacuated at that point because there was so much destruction, and only essential people were allowed to stay on the Air Force base I was working on. And so I sat there and I cried. I was in tears, thinking about what had to be done and what we had just went through, and how was I going to accomplish the things on this list. There were embarrassing items that were on there. But something amazing happened. I extended trust, I was vulnerable, and I met some amazing people. People that I've had lasting friendships with and that I still lean on today. I learned about presence and the importance of living in the moment and not looking at it through the lens of a camera phone, but instead with our eyes, our ears, and our whole heart. I cannot tell you how many times I've screwed this up. Somebody's been sitting right in front of me, and I felt that typed text on a screen were more important than being present with that person. Don't miss out on the awesome opportunities in life because you feel that a text or an email is more important, or that you need to post something on social media. I've made being present a necessity. It shows those in any area of my life how important they are to me. And also, I found that through being present with them, I've had some amazing experiences, learned some wonderful things, and enjoyed everything that's going on around me. And finally, through Hurricane Katrina, I learned about grit. Grit is the passion and perseverance to work towards achieving your long-term goals. Grit is what got me through Hurricane Katrina. Again, just a few nights after the storm, I remember being on the phone with my father. And my father had taught me through life to never give up. His actions showed me that time and time again. And on that phone call, he told me too many people in life give up and they live with regrets. And that's their choice. And in the moment, I told him I wanted to give up. I wanted to flee. I wanted to leave the destruction and start over somewhere else. And he said, I know you better than that. I know you're going to stay. You're going to help rebuild. You're going to continue with your purpose. And you're going to inspire. And those words during that time and so many difficult times in my life since then have rang through my head. Never give up. As I look back on the 12 years that have passed since Hurricane Katrina and what my wife and I went through, it was difficult, it was tough. I don't wish it on anyone. But it's those moments in life that help us grow. And through those moments of growth, we learn, and our lives are transformed. As I went through those dark days during Hurricane Katrina, and I pondered what I was going to do, what choices I was going to make, I made the choice to pick that blue bucket up right there and start over and rebuild. And it's a choice that honored my purpose, and it gave me the story that I'm incredibly humbled to share here today. Thank you.